Can you describe what a volunteer ombudsman or woman is and why they are important?
Okay, so I advocate on behalf of nursing home residents. And this all started in 1965 under the Older Americans Act with LBJ. And so at that time, they were seeing just so much nursing home or nursing facility abuse and neglect that they felt like there needed to be some type of watchdog group to monitor this. And so at that time, they created the Ombudsman Program. And so we have paid ombudsman and we have volunteer ombudsman, and that's implemented through each state in the United States.
That's great. And so what inspired you to get trained as a volunteer ombudsman, and what exactly did that training involve?
Okay, well, let me just say one quick thing. So I want to make a disclaimer. So I want to represent the Ombudsman Program as best as possible, but I'm also, a disability rights activist and, a person. And so maybe my feelings about nursing facilities will not be reflective of the Ombudsman Program. So I just want to make that clear right now. And you said, you brought up a good point. You mentioned you don't like referring to them as nursing homes because you don't feel like they're homes. And as a disability rights activist, I completely concur with that. I do find myself referring to them as nursing homes because with the average person, when I say nursing facility, they're a little confused. They don't know if that means a hospital or, what have you. So just in order to simplify things.
Right. I've had the same issue with talking about the website with my Olmstead rights. I said, my home, not nursing facilities. I thought to myself, do people understand that a nursing facility is the same thing as a nursing home?
Right. Not everyone.
That would confuse marketing or, marketing the site or like promoting the site because people would be thinking, well, people have to go to nursing facilities to get skilled nursing help.
Right.
And so, so I see what you're saying for sure. I just hate calling anything up, like anything that's not a home.
Right. Right.
So it's a tough thing. So thanks. I'm glad we got to talk about that. That's one thing that I didn't even expect that we'd talk about, but I agree. And it's hard because you want to represent the program and you don't want to let your personal feelings get involved. I imagine that personal feelings and activism inspired why you wanted to become a volunteer ombudsman, but you have to let that go. So
right.
So tell me a little bit about the training. Like, what is the training involved and stuff like that?
Okay, so there's 36 hours. Let me go back to my notes. So there are 36 hours of training, and then we have a 3-month internship. And then along with that, you have to have continuing education units, which I really enjoy those because we've had people from Social Security come and speak with us, disability rights, independent living centers, HUD, you name it. It's been very informative, and I'm particularly interested in this as a person with a disability because, obviously finding out information and knowing more about my rights helps me to help the residents. So, and I want to show you our, I'm very weak, but if you can you see this? This is our training.
That's crazy.
Manual.
It's huge.
I don't carry it around with me because it's really heavy. So I have a degree in social work, and I found the training to be in line with social work. It's very social worky and it's evidence-based and it's really well done. Very, very professional. They're on the ball,
That's wonderful. And did you just go on the website and just sign up, or was there an orientation, or do you remember?
Yes. Okay. So let me tell you first how, do you want to go back? You asked what made me get involved with it.
Yeah, we could do that. I wasn't sure if you wanted to go into those deep feelings. So.
Well, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you'll have a hard time with me in 10 minutes. You'll be like, okay, Lydia, that's not. But so my mother had a dementia-related illness, and this was when I was in my mid-30s. And my father took care of her at home, and my siblings and I, we took turns helping him take care of her. We didn't want her in a nursing facility. But at some point, I can't remember exactly what happened. Did she fall? You know, this was in 2002 or 3. And so she had to go into a hospital briefly. And then after that, she needed some rehabilitation. So she went into a rehabilitation facility, which is essentially the same thing as a, you know, nursing homes and nursing facilities, rehabilitation center. And she was there for about a week, and we were checking on her every day. But my cousin went one day to check on her, and she, they had the doors slightly closed, and she assumed that they were helping my mother dress. And she heard the nurse yelling at my mother. And it was really, really, she said it was just very ugly, you know, abusive. And so she called us, and we immediately got in the car and went there. And when I got there, my mother had bruises on her arms, and we were just there, you know. So, and she had really deep fingernail indentions in her arm, and they were bleeding.
That's awful.
So, and she was so vulnerable. I mean, she was, you know, she had advanced dementia. You know, so there were times she didn't know, you know, who I was or whatnot, or recognize my father. But my father was a very stoic type of man. You know, he was the greatest generation. He was in World War II, and I've never seen my father so heartbroken like that in my life. I've never seen him cry like that. And so we got her out of there immediately. So, and then my daughter, and this was very recently in the past year, my daughter's grandmother from her father broke her hip, and she was in a hospital. And then Medicare, you know, decides that you need to go into a nursing facility for rehabilitation for a while. So I really did my research on this because I had that experience with my mother. And that's how I found out actually about the Ombudsman Program, because I was on the Attorney General of Texas's website, Ken Paxton. And if you go on his website, there's all sorts of information about how to choose a nursing home, what you should do, what you should know, how to access violation reports through Health and Human Services and whatnot. And on his website, there was mention of the Ombudsman Program. And I was like, oh, what's this? This is pretty interesting. So I read about it and did some research, and the next thing you know, I found myself filling out an application and applying for that. So, and they do, I mean, it's very thorough. They do an interview, then, you know, then you have background checks. So all of this occurs before you even, you know, are accepted and then go for training, because they need to make sure that you're, you know, you don't have, that you've not engaged in exploitation or abuse or neglect or what have you. You know, they want quality people.
Well, I think I'm really glad you did it. I think, and so you okay, we'll get more into it as we go along, I guess. So how long have you been doing it for? Like how?
Okay, so I'm kind of a newbie. I've only done it for a little more than a year.
Okay. All right. And it took about, like you said, about 3 months to get the training and go through all that stuff and then do the internship, right? You said
right. There's an internship, and then your supervisor accompanies you to the facilities, and they offer you guidance and that type of thing, which is good because, you know, you have your training, but sometimes you're not really prepared for what the nursing home staff are going to throw at you. So she modeled, you know, such professional behavior and ethics, and I learned so much from her. It was just really great.
That's great. And so So you've been doing it for about a year, and I guess, I mean, I imagine there's good days and there's bad days. And what kind of inspires you to keep putting in the time and the volunteer? How many hours do you volunteer a week?
Well, the minimum is 2 hours a week, but I do way, way more than that.
So you're pretty inspired.
So, I mean, just this week, one day I was there, I don't know, I bet I've done 10 hours or so. Not all of that at the facility. Some of that was talking to residents on the phone or calling the state to file a complaint with Health and Human Services. Or sometimes I find myself having to do research on the laws and looking up resident rights, because even though we have the laws, sometimes, well, I mean, there are loopholes and caveats, and so these things kind of get pretty complicated.
Right, right. So your minimum requirement is 2 hours, but
Right.
you're pretty, you get passionate about what you're doing, and then you can put in as much time as you want.
Right.
And yeah, and I think that's great. And so, but do you find that that's common? Like, do you think that you're kind of an anomaly, or do you feel that there are other people that get kind of put in more than 2 hours a week?
I'm not really sure about that. It seems like, I bet maybe I'm guessing on average, maybe now this is volunteer, right? Not, they're paid employees and they do this all day.
Right, right.
But for a volunteer, I bet the volunteers do 2 or 3 hours a week. And it depends on your nursing facility. Is it a quality facility, or are they taking good care of the residents, or,
right.
You might accidentally get a bad one.
Yeah.
So.
No, and so that's cool. And do you talk to the full timers, like the people that get paid to do it? Like, are you kind of like, do you assist them in a sense? Like, do you help take the load off of them, or is it just totally separate?
No, well, I do talk to them often in training, and I call and email the office and my supervisor frequently, just to let her know what's going on, what I'm doing. For instance, I prefer to call her first and run things by her before I call the state to file a complaint.
Right. Yeah. Well, that would make sense.
And there have been a few times where I've had to deal with recalcitrant staff. So I've called her in on a meeting with me, because they oftentimes take the actual ombudsman a little bit more seriously than the volunteers.
Right.
So.
Gotcha.